We know one of the very critical component is going to be logistics. That's why we talk to people like you and even at the smallest volume that we are finding, and we are encouraging. And now it is giving a lot more confidence to build up logistics as a very specialized service. We have reached a stage where you can call ChatGPT and say, tell me, I'm going to have a chat with the pitch CEO. What should I talk? And it will give me a... Now there are a large number of people who have digital consumers.
Right.
For them, at marginal cost, they can offer more.
Hello, everyone, and we have a very, very special episode at the Disruptors Den today. I'm Ratnesh. I'm the founder CEO at Pidge, a unified logistics platform built on smart, accessible technology. Our guest today is possibly one of the most disruptive people in this country. Mr. T. Koshi, welcome. And Mr. T. Koshi is the CEO and Managing Director at ONDC. Great to have you here, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
You've been involved in something that has always been path-breaking, right from being a part of the founding team member at NSDL to your engagement with UPI, Aadhaar, GST, and now spearheading ONDC. You clearly do it big. And more importantly, you've always been involved in digitizing Bharat and for the new Bharat. How do you feel about it?
Oh, it's really a feeling of excitement. It was quite accidental that about 25 years ago, I got an opportunity to be a part of this NSDL project, which is about completely digitizing capital markets, settlement and holding and settlement of securities in the demat form. So it is a completely new idea, crazy idea. So nobody has done that here in India. It was somewhere in the world.
Right.
So even I didn't have no experience, and the whole team had no experience. And the good thing is that, when we had a fantastic team who were trying to make it happen with an outcome orientation. And there was no set playbook that is available. So I enjoyed that, and I realized that this is good fun to take it up, and also it also gives an opportunity to really make some transformational effort to the country.
Sure.
And I could actually experience the kind of changes that happened in capital market when we started. And digitization started. The daily transaction used to be something like 400 crore all across, and now 150,000, 200,000 crores all happened only because of the digitization that made it possible and across the country. So then subsequently I got opportunity to be a part of many a number of such projects, and I sort of continues to have that fun.
Right. So, every project, you talked about playbook, every project that you've been involved with, whether it was to a large extent Aadhaar, UPI, no playbooks, and you were involved in them. NSDL, of course, you've just mentioned. ONDC, there is no playbook in the world. So in the absence of those playbooks, which I know it's hard to choose between hard to choose a favorite child between, all your children, but which one was the project that you felt challenged you the most?
I would rather say the biggest challenge I felt was my first project, because it was my first project.
Got it.
And secondly, the constraints were so high. While there had been some depositories in the world, the extent of information availability was much, much limited. We didn't have internet and www to access all kinds of information,
right,
or even to have case studies. Today, practically you can get anything. And today, we've reached a stage where you can call ChatGPT and say, tell me, I'm going to have a chat with the pitch CEO. What should I talk? And it will give me a list of items. But that is very different. And secondly, the IT infrastructure was very limited. Connectivity really was bad.
Yes.
And the amount of people who are trained in those systems are very, very low. And on the other side, the SLAs, is extremely high. It's a very, unforgiving atmosphere. If something has to be delivered tomorrow at 2 o'clock, it has to be. Otherwise, somebody has to pay for it.
The margins of error are very expensive.
And margin error is practically not there. So because of that, and we are trying to fine tune and get things done. So that was actually a experience by fire. So after that, the rest of the things I felt was, gave me a lot of confidence. If I could, be involved in as a team to make it happen.
Right.
And anything is possible. And when it comes to today, that's why if you look at ONDC, as you very correctly said, there's no playbook anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
And there is nobody who's got any experience, anything. Even the experience that they have is completely different.
Of course.
So, good fun.
Yeah. So, just sticking on with that, you've obviously been involved with a lot of very exciting initiatives, and you've contributed. When you look back, are they running the way you had envisioned them to run?
See, there are two parts to it. One is that when even the first project where I played in a sort of significant role as a senior sort of key member, there was a vision of what it should achieve. Mm-hmm. So it was sort of scary whether we will be with all the constraint that was there as well as the global example that was there. But more or less we were lucky to sort of take it to where we wanted it to happen.
Right.
Similarly, that was the case with practically almost all the project where we had actually started. But to be very honest, we had sort of tried to convince a lot of people on very, very dramatically transformative ideas. Some of them were not even, the people involved were not even ready to take it forward.
Right.
But wherever we kickstarted it, two things really helped us. One is persistence and perseverance.
Of course.
And willingness to continuously evolve and innovate. Because there cannot be a playbook that will give you everything.
Right.
So you have to think, hey, this is not working. Can I do something else? At every point of time, don't get married to an idea, get married to an outcome and a dream. And whatever that it takes to make it happen, do it. That's the kind of philosophy on which that I've worked, and it seems to be working.
For sure. So there is an argument that when you have, large-scale public serving initiatives like, let's say, UPI, and everything kind of like grows under it, do you think at any point in time the initiative itself becomes a glass ceiling to innovation?
There is possibility if it is, that kind of a project. But the good thing that is there is, many of the projects. So, for example, if I tell you the first one, DMAT project.
Yes.
Globally, many of the countries have only one single depository. Mm-hmm. So the lawmakers believed in the philosophy of multiple depositories, and they sort of enabled that in the act itself. And the regulator stuck with it. So not that there could be opportunity for many because the nature of the business.
Of course.
But there are two.
Right.
So that's why if we always allow the very basic philosophy that it should not become a monolith that will suppress, that will really be beneficial for that sector.
Right.
So practically I got opportunity to be involved in many of them. In fact, the ONDC is the epitome of that.
Of course.
It says it should drive imagination, drive innovation. And it can never become one monolithic organization at all.
Right.
So the whole basic architecture itself is that. It sort of supports a natural order that you need to innovate, some has to fail, some has to succeed.
Of course.
And the one that succeed will sustain, the rest will trigger some new innovation.
Of course.
So it's an order of the nature, and that in any solution design you should provide for that.
Yeah. So there is a talk, and there is kind of like I would say a more casual talk, how ONDC is like UPI. My question to you is quite the opposite. Do you believe ONDC is like UPI, or do you believe it's not? And either way, what is
the
your
answer
view?
Is yes and no. The reason is, if you look at any business transaction, there are two sides to it.
Right.
One is money, other is goods and service.
Yes.
UPI is all about one side, which is money. Mm-hmm. And the fundamental philosophy of unbundling and interoperability is there in UPI, which is the underlying philosophical bearing on which ONDC is also set.
Right.
But having said that, the challenges are different. In UPI side, if you look at, there is only practically one SKU.
Of course.
And which is digital. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the people who deal with all your accounts, holding, are banks as highly regulated entities. Quite limited number. It's not that there are thousands of banks.
Exactly.
And the customer interface is done by few enterprises because they have to only ensure operational efficiency and reach. The opportunity for differentiation is not so high. Finally, what am I saying? I'm transferring money. Koshi is transferring money to you. So what's my name? What's my bank account? Where am I changing it to?
And what's your mobile number? And that's it.
I mean, some essentially UPI ID.
Yes.
And mine, yours, that's it.
Correct.
And after that, it's just been delivered. When it comes to ONDC, it becomes where the complexity become. The underlying philosophy is exactly the same, unbundling and interoperability. And it's on the other side of the business transaction. Having said that, so diverse. So we are trying to look at any, like you heard, any product or service which is catalogable will eventually be in this network.
Right.
Different kind of buying interfaces will come and help their clients to search for, identify, choose, place an order, make the money, make the payment, get the order fulfilled, and then if there's any clarification, grievance, handle, everything has to be done. That they will do. So in that way, you're talking about retail, you're talking about business to business, you're talking about food, you're talking about ride hailing, you're talking about financial products. So even the diversity is so high. SKUs are millions.
Yeah.
So in that way, we are. It's like saying we are building on the shoulders of the guys who came before.
Sure.
And having and also the fact that there's digital movement of money at every corner of thing make it possible. Supposing UPI was not there, we couldn't have had an ONDC at all because it would have been practically very, very difficult to manage.
Right.
But having said that, this complexity level is very, very high.
Yeah.
And so one has to be ready to sort of, innovate. And the kind of people, they could be farmers and farmer producer organization to multinational like Unilever, Hindustan Unilever or Google or anybody.
Yeah.
So the diversity is also high.
Right.
So from a complexity point of view, much, much different.
Yeah. So, as someone who comes from the logistics ecosystem and building unified platform, it's one of the things that I feel, and I'd love to get your perspective on how you're solving for it, is when it's okay to build a unified ecosystem for when everything is digital. So, the buyer and the seller, and that's really even the marketplaces, business models of the 90s were built on an end-to-end value chain, but they all came and got stuck when it came to delivery, because all e-commerce has to end in a delivery. Delivery is a physical touch point. It's not as much as a digital. It's partially digital, but it's also a physical touch point. Now, when you talk about ONDC, and you've obviously this unbundling. So there's a couple of questions here. First is there is unbundling, and you're trying to create that uniformity. But how do you build the cohesion between the manual touch point and the digital touch point?
If you look at this way in the business, like you said, one is looking for a product, ordering and placing an order, and somebody has to deliver it.
Right.
Just like somebody has to deliver, somebody has to manufacture it.
Correct.
Somebody has to connect, link them together, stitch them together to make it a group of product to become a solution.
Right.
All these things have physical touch points. If you look at the world, even before e-commerce started, had been doing this business for a long time. There is ways and means to make all these things happen. Protocols and standardization make it more efficient. If you just take two examples. Before e-commerce came, we had catalog marketing, $1 billion business.
Of course.
What does it do? It's just exactly the same. Only thing it is physical, much less efficient because you could not even track in a digital form. The audit trail and traceability in a digital world makes this whole physical process much more efficient. And for example, if you look at one other thing, since you said about logistics, if you look at one of the biggest challenge in the international logistics was the very arbitrary size of packaging.
Yes.
And somebody came together and said, can we bring containerization idea? Click, suddenly look at the way the efficiency change. So there had been innovations trying to shape all these things together. When some of these e-commerce companies started, they thought having control is to have an end-to-end control.
Exactly.
But at the end of it, if you really look at that's the only business where everything is trying to be controlled by end-to-end. It's actually against the natural order. Because there are only one or two entities, it is not stimulating innovation. While they will innovate for themselves, but supposing you have a different idea to innovate, which will complement, unless you are a part that fit into their scheme of things, you are irrelevant. So it is, I would rather it's against the natural order of innovation or mutation, whatever you call. And whereas this provides for that. And that's why, in fact, we know one of the very critical component is going to be logistics. That's why we talk to people like you, and even at the smallest volume that we are finding, and we are encouraging. And now it is giving a lot more confidence to build up logistics as a very specialized service. Today, if you look at, there are a couple of enterprises, and even the large e-commerce companies, most of them have their own logistics one.
Exactly.
So, but how much are they covering? 6% of the transactions and 2% of the seller side.
Exactly.
Now, if all of them want to come to digitally, logistics has to be evolved to meet the requirement of, like you said, Unilever to a small artisan from some corner. It has to take the power of the local enterprises and help them common infrastructure which is national. So it is going to, this kind of an openness and interoperability is going to stimulate significant amount of innovation, and somebody will something better every day.
Yeah.
In fact, that is what my belief is, because that's what we showed in the physical world.
Yeah.
Continuous innovation. Like I said, ONDC is bringing natural order back to e-commerce, which is not there today.
Absolutely.
That's my belief.
No, I fully agree with you. I think when I mentioned earlier the marketplaces as a business model of the 90s, unfortunately, there hasn't been enough innovation to challenge that. There was direct to consumer, which a lot of people call V2.0 of e-commerce, democratization, but truly that didn't manifest itself because it was left at the industry level. I think what ONDC is trying to do is V3.0 of e-commerce, bringing that democratization, that choice at the business level, which is, I think, is quite a game changer. I get very excited when I look at, what ONDC is trying to accomplish, because it's really embracing V3.0.
It is essentially helping to stitch together the innovation from every building block of business.
Absolutely.
Even in D2C, what has he done? He only said, I will not use the larger platform.
Exactly.
But he has to be certain size and shape and capability. Otherwise, he cannot survive. And the kind of duplication of cost that he has to do. Unless he reaches, for example, unless he reaches a certain scale, even a logistic company will not sign a contract with him because he's too irrelevant.
Yeah.
Whereas here, he can buy one package of one from Moradabad to Cochin.
Yeah, exactly.
Peacefully, at a very competitive rate, because they are all available as a competitive. And it makes sense to even for the logistics companies to be making the service available in retail form. Not just logistics, retail, even packaging. Even many of the small businesses don't even know how to package for the whole, across and deliver across.
Right.
So that can become a unbundled service. Somebody can specialize. Even it can be specialization at a local level.
Yeah.
So, an industry level. So that's what I'm saying is this. I'm certainly a believer that this unbundling is going to just drive innovation, specialization, which leads to streamlined, efficient operations.
Right. So let's talk about one of the metrics that you mentioned. India currently has roughly about 5 or 6% of its total retail in e-commerce compared to global averages of about 18-20%. China, US are at about 30%. What's holding India back? I mean, when you look at the smartphone penetration, over 70%, people are smart. UPI. But what's really holding India back to get to 20%? Is ONDC going to do it?
Definitely, that's what we're going to do. Like I said, India is a huge market.
Of course.
And complex market. It's like 30 countries.
Yeah, it's bigger than Europe.
Yeah. And then every enterprise which comes try to maximize their shareholders' wealth.
Right.
And so their whole idea is to cream the obvious. Eventually, if you left to them, they'll try to enhance and increase and so on and so forth. But today, because there is like 6-7% is decent size for their business. And then at the same time, the kind of differentiation they need to go down the level is different.
Right.
So building up slowly. And if you again go to US market and etc., when only few enterprises practically take a stranglehold of the whole industry, it is really going to kill small business. You would have seen in public reports.
Yeah.
So we are lucky that we have embarked on an initiative very much in advance. I mean, things will grow. For example, US, they have reached so high that it is practically not so easy to we are so lucky that at the time when we reached 6%, I mean, left to, for example, assuming there was no NDC, I'm sure that it would have gone to 20% in some time. But the terms of that 20% would have been not the best interest of the remaining 80%.
Absolutely.
Here, we are going to grow to 20 to 30 to 40 at the terms and possibilities, which is relevant for them, and to make it 80% without compromising and complicating, and providing the diversity that is required. You need Infinity Mall and you need Palika Bazaar.
Both.
They have to coexist.
Right.
You can't just make everything a cookie cutter solution, because few enterprises who are trying to maximize their interest will try to minimize the variables for them. There could be suppliers. 2 large suppliers is better than 200 small suppliers. Easy to deal, easy to handle.
Of course.
So that is how anybody will try to maximize. That happened even in the physical world. If you remember, the large supermarket chains had the same issues.
Yeah.
So I would rather say this is something they're going to. We have come out with a fast track solution. Whereas, like I said, now Americans and the Europeans are trying to find a regulatory solution to the same challenge.
Right.
So we are trying to have a solution which is based on technology and market.
And in some ways, kind of like encourages the open marketness as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's great. Okay. On a lighter note, so the inflection point for UPI was demonetization. In many ways, like when demonetization happened, it was the inflection point for UPI's adoption. What is that inflection point for ONDC?
I will not say whether it's inflection point. Of course, it gave a real kick to sort of enhance the acceleration.
Yes.
If it had not happened, it might have been a little slower, possibly.
Sure.
But good, what happened is happened.
Of course.
Here, we don't know we are not going to plan a business based on some magic to happen. So what we are working is to give increased confidence to larger participation.
Right.
Like I said, last January, when I made it available broadly to the public at large, in few pin codes in Bangalore, we had something like 400-500 merchants doing about 1,000 transactions. Today, in 15 months now, this month, then we will finish with 8.5 million transactions. I believe that already I can see people feeling confident, and number of people who want to integrate getting larger and larger, from 500 merchants to 5.5 lakh merchants. So I believe that probably in another few months' time, when we take this number to about 3-4 times, you would see everybody was wanting to be part of it.
Of course.
In fact, what I found really exciting, probably would have seen in the news. I told you that we are going to work towards anybody who's got digital consumers coming and bringing their consumers onto this market.
Yes.
That's why if you look at fintech, were the obvious one. So the Paytms of the world came first. The one that I found really exciting in the last week, you saw the announcement that the media companies come.
Of course.
Yes. In fact, that's a fantastic. In fact, that initiative that will going to change the way the content and commerce work together.
Right.
Today, content and commerce work together only to give awareness. Tomorrow, content and commerce going to work towards awareness and action.
Yeah.
So after you saw Dainik Jagran coming big way, and in fact, I was spending my time with them today, even morning, and they said they are completely convinced they are going to really put their might behind to make it really possible. And rest of them are started talking to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, and whenever they're ready, they will go.
Of course.
But since it is such a democratized possibility, there are people even on the seller side who want to come and be there because they know they can make their own terms of trade and they can succeed or fail. So the diversity of people who are coming and say, hey, let me be part of the network is also increasing. Probably you would have seen from on one side, for example, whether it is food to grocery to metro, because they're all coming in one,
Exactly.
The latest one again interesting for something, a country like ours, which is very spiritual in nature, with a spiritual foundation, probably would have seen prasad is being made available now. And many of the people who work in that segment, spirituality, are now seriously here. Some of the people who are, I'm just giving the diversity which is making it possible. Because they decide. For example, if I was running a platform, I'll say, let me see whether you're fit enough to be a part of my stuff. But it fit my strategy, but it fit my priority. So I control. Whereas here you decide, I want to come. I think I'll work. So that's why spirituality said, okay, India will work. I'm not the one to make a judge. Although I believe strongly in it, probably I'm not the best judge. But those people who are in the industry feel I can be the one.
Sure.
So similarly, different kind of those enterprises are coming and say, hey, can I make my catalog visible using ONDC protocol?
Yeah.
So that freedom to experiment in this digital domain is a humongous change.
For sure. But over the last 4 years, even 5 years, I would say, there have been multiple startups, even before the inception of ONDC, who've tried to organize the Kirana stores. Let's talk about the heart of Bharat, the tier 3 markets, the Kirana stores, and the really micro small businesses, 70 million of them. There have been a lot of startups that have tried to organize them. There have been a lot of startups that have tried to digitize them. Unfortunately failed. Where is ONDC going to be different to make a difference in their lives to the heart of Bharat?
See, look at one of the biggest challenge. Any e-commerce company pre-ONDC is that they have to do a complete end-to-end. Look at any of the Kirana stores when they went. They had to take care of seller onboarding. They have to take care of a solution which is exactly fitted that will only happen to their clients.
Right.
You might have started Kirana stores, I might have Kirana stores, but we are making completely from grounds up the IT system.
Right.
Grounds up the integration, because you also have to go to the Kirana, I also have to go to the Kirana. You have to tie up for your own logistics because there is nobody. So practically, what is the model we know? I'll protect my logistics. So all of them comes at a cost building up, whereas in the margins here is not so high. So the Kirana guy is saying, what do I benefit by being a part of it?
Right.
Okay, that is one big challenge. Whereas here, a lot of things are common. Like for example, if anybody today, anybody who's digitizing Kirana, he can get logistics is ready available. Somebody else is building up the demand. Okay, and there can be a collective initiative. Just making theoretical example. I'm not saying this is how this work.
Sure.
For example, let's take the case somebody is digitizing Kirana stores and come. And there could be, since the protocol is standard, there could be a lot of innovation in making this thing.
Of course.
Because what I make for myself is also relevant for you, relevant for him.
Yes.
So, remember the time when the World Wide Web came and portals started coming up.
Yes.
Initially, it used to be a very costly venture to create a web page.
Right.
I remember one of the earliest web pages that got developed at the time, 96, 97, when we started business. We had to pay a few lakhs to have some 20 pages.
Exactly.
Here today, my small school kid will do it.
Exactly.
So because of
a 10-year-old child can build pages.
Standardization and availability of tools. That is happening. So a lot of common infrastructure is getting built.
Right.
Logistics is available. Demand generation, for example, let's say when I say Dainik Jagaran, when they make it themselves available, they have no tie-up with any of these Kiranas. They need their people to come and use them for transactions. So they'll tell it's available.
Right.
Or even, let's take the case tomorrow, pure theoretical, let's say HUL make a national level advertisement for Dow soap. I'm just making an example. They can give at the bottom a QR code once, and the QR code is generalized. It's not, they don't need anybody's permission. It's not exclusive to one buyer application or another buyer application. It could be an ONDC generalized QR code which we publish. And say that scan that code, the nearest Kirana shop will pop it and uska chotu will deliver. So that possibility was not there for each of the small ventures. So now a lot of common things which otherwise would have added cost to each of these ventures will become available at much marginal cost. And secondly, as more and more youngsters are going to be more digitally dependent. And since it's a common infrastructure, even FMCG companies or any of them, it makes sense for them to encourage the digitization. Because it is bringing power back to their traditional channel, which is being squeezed by the other channels.
Yeah.
So, except for few enterprises, they all feel comfortable and confident to collaborate.
Yeah.
So, that is what is going to drive a success.
I agree with you. And I know this will be successful, but I have a slightly different POV on it. And my perspective is the reason they didn't work is because the margins and the profits are low and it did not work well with the stakeholders. With ONDC, the purpose is very different. The purpose is to actually make a difference, to penetrate and it's the larger
I
public
said,
good.
when you're trying to make something smaller within the margin, it is not affordable.
Yeah. But
So,
also,
not just-
what purpose do you start with?
No, that is me. And see, at the end of it, I am not the one who's dealing with Kirana directly.
Right.
I'm not the one who's doing the consumer. They also have to make the
Yeah.
money. So, but thing is, again, they realize that they will have to work on the thin margin business. And plus, they can offer not just Kirana. While they might be, as a buyer application, I can give them grocery and food and fashion without going after each of the sellers.
But I think it's really the acquisition in tier 2 and 3 markets. How do you get to that penetration in tier 3 markets?
which on buy side, buy sell side.
More on the seller side.
I mean, that's why the seller side guys are now realizing if I can help my business to digitize and make it available, somebody else is going to bring me the demand. In fact, if you look at our numbers are very, very small. But even at this stage, other than mobility is very hyperlocal, small. Non-mobility, about 65% of transactions is happening in tier 2, tier 3 cities and towns. Because they are the kind of people who are going to adopt new.
Sure.
Because even if while we claim that the current e-commerce is there everywhere, but it is for the cream of the society there. Because it doesn't make sense to make it relevant for the last mile. So if you look at the sell side, you will see innovation. I don't know whether you are aware of the the hackathon that we did
Yes,
last.
of course. Yes.
We had a participation of 100,000 people. You wouldn't have heard that kind of a hackathon anywhere.
Of course.
And this was not a PPT to hackathon. Somebody had to show a working model.
Yeah, demonstrate that.
And then 21,000 teams forming about almost 100,000 people. Out of it, 38% of them came from tier 2, tier 3 towns.
Interesting.
The largest number of startups who participated is from a town, Patna. Although the largest number would have come from Bangalore.
Right.
Largest number of startups who participated. And the kind of innovation that came from college kids from tier 2, tier 3 was amazing.
Yeah.
So that's why this is giving everybody an opportunity. Like I said earlier, bringing the order of nature to work. Yeah. And that is what will stimulate innovation and growth.
Yeah.
That's how the human race from wheel to spacecraft came out of innovation
of course.
By different people doing things.
Right.
So that's how I see things.
No, for sure. One question that I've always wondered about, in the startup you say, focus, test, grow. Now with ONDC, clearly you took, let's go big approach. You went across categories. Whether it was food or it was kirana or even ride hailing or even hotels and lodging. So you went across categories. What was the thinking there rather than just test it with a smaller category? 2
parts. Part 1, that I am not running a platform. So while I have diverse kind of category, we are in each of the category there are anchors coming. For example, food, we had Magic Pin coming and said, I'll be an anchor. I'll show. I believe in it. So what we are creating was an enabling infrastructure and a protocol. So it is not, see, for example, if I was running my own platform, then I'd say, I'll just try it out. Here in Paytm is trying a strategy, Ola is trying a different strategy. What I've enabled them is to diversify. If you look at, when internet started, did anybody say who should make a web page first?
No, sure.
I mean, this is Internet of Commerce.
Right.
So that is why we are feeling very comfortable in this. Secondly, in each of the domains also, it is a platform, existing one, who has gone deeper into fine-tuning for a certain segment of client. Now we are saying that you don't need to such fine-tuning. So it is giving an opportunity, say that if you can make transaction out of food and out of grocery, you feel confident that you're not going directly against either Zomato, or I'm just using the name, or to another consumer, goods thing. So you're getting a different one. And there is again, we are trying to expand the market, not just go in competition. It's an inclusive agenda. See that there are lots of, for the elite, they have the specialized solution. For somebody who's looking for value, there are another kind of solutions. So it is possible to build those markets. So that's how we...
No, for sure.
So that's why, the single product concentration becomes very, very relevant if you're trying to build a platform.
Right.
Here we are creating a network, an enabling network.
There is, of course, the Digital Bharat vision. is ONDC that big vision, or is ONDC a part of that vision? Because there's been fantastic initiatives, and we talked about that earlier. We talked about UPI, we talked about Aadhaar, and we've talked about, of course, the NSDL that you started, almost 30 years, 25 years ago. So is ONDC
this is something like
the bigger of all?
They are just in the commerce side. Because it's a network, because it's an enabler, it is going to cover wherever there is business transaction. It could be B2C, B2C, goods and services.
It's everything.
It's everything.
Yes.
So, and there again, none of them is run by us. It is done by people who are experts in that one.
Of course.
We are only giving them enabling protocol,
Right.
HTTP of commerce, and the rules of this highway, because we're creating a highway or a rail or whatever you call it. The rest is done by them.
Right.
That's the beauty. We are only giving a common theme, a common vision, and common enabler. And even for the government and philanthropic agencies to be a part of it, because they are not trying to promote any one private interest. They are promoting an ecosystem development. So it's a whole ecosystem approach. Right. That's why it is a different scale. So that way we believe that it's going, like I said, practically encompass a very, very large cross section wherever there's business.
So, just very simply putting, for our audience who may not be as informed about the e-commerce, dynamics, what's the vision of ONDC?
In long run, like every product or service which is catalogable, that means every SKU, should be available in a common digital network to help every buyer using a buyer interface of their convenience to come and discover the products that they want. So it is no more focused on who is specializing in that segment, but it is focused on the consumer.
Right.
So the buying application will focus on consumer. The selling application will focus on the sellers.
Got it.
If I for example, let's say I feel trustworthy to ask one buying application. I don't want to use any name. And now I'm comfortable with that. My data is with him. He has no vested interest to push any product to me.
Got it.
He has all the vested interest to help me buy the best thing. So he will use the latest technology, AML, etc., to help me make the right choice, not to force a choice on me.
For sure.
Okay. So that becomes the buy side. And the sell side, the similar kind of thing. So there will be a lot of small groups who are trying to maximize the interest of those segments. That is a change that we are talking about.
So we talked about unbundling. Now, when you look at the traditional business model of marketplaces, they have multiple levers to optimize for economics, because they go all the way from demand gen to demand fulfillment. And in the entire journey, whether it's inventory management and point of sale or cash and everything, they have multiple levers. Despite that, they struggle with economics. When you unbundle, how do you expect your individual stakeholders to make the economics work?
I'm just making some fancy theories, I should say. Just because they have all the levers, are they managing all the levers efficiently?
Interesting.
I don't think so. Because the guy who can do a very efficient packing act with a certain segment of people who, whose cost of service could be different, but he can do outstanding service, is different from some large multinational trying to hire certain minimum quality people who are expected to meet the requirement of certain kind of clients and so on and so forth. Very different.
Right.
If you remember when the mobile company, cell phone company started, they tried to do everything themselves.
Yes.
And then they realized they are not good in everything to do them by themselves. Today, the best example is Virgin Mobile. What do they have? They have a CRM and a billing software. Everything is outsourced.
Correct.
If you look at every business in the world is unbundled, except e-commerce. Naturally, bundle will be very few businesses, which is natural for them. So that is why, like I said earlier, the order of the nature is innovation. Innovation happens micro. If you look at how did the humanity from the amoeba in the soup in the beginning to us, it was incremental mutation. It was not that they came up with there is this fantastic design, something called human being. They didn't do. It was incremental mutation.
Right.
Some of them succeeded, some of them failed.
For sure.
But the thing is, it did not come to stop because there are many attempting. some succeeding, some failing. So there was continuity. Continuity was possible only because of the total number of participants.
Right.
That is one. Second is that many of these companies, their strategy, like say, is to, I have a lighter way of saying that it is to get a critical mass of buyers. If I just loosely truck the buyer and push the sellers, is that in either both sides, you develop a critical mass, then you control. Then you are able to control the behavior in that domain.
Right.
And you become the master.
Right.
So that is the aim and which each of this business model work.
Sure.
So the first stage of the strategy was to get that minimum user base so that everybody else can be discouraged from participating. So that is the reason that is why they decided to throw in that capital to build that stuff.
Yeah.
So these are the two reasons why some of them are still not successful. Some of them just screwed it up. Probably they took a domain which didn't have that possibility. But this is, if you look at the underlying reason, these two. One is they are not the best in everything. Second thing is they wanted to get a control. But it would have succeeded. That's what happened even in US or in UK or in European Union. So that's why they are trying to redefine the model. Yeah. Because at the end of it, to the larger society, it was not the best.
Right.
So that's why they're trying to control it through regulation. Here we'll say, let the markets, the best regulator is the nature, the
100%,
markets.
100%.
So that's what we said. And the beauty is the new technology components that is coming is making it even enable. Even the small guy can benefit the power of engineering skill of the big guy, marry his operational capability and cultural understanding and appreciation for a small segment, and give together a fantastic experience to the user and the seller.
Right.
So that's why, that's also sort of aiding in that one.
Yeah. So let's double click on that, sir. I think two aspects. You said it's the inefficiencies because they're not good at everything. And the second part is that, they've clearly not been able to scale in the right way. But I think the bigger challenge in any marketplace is the three-sided CAC, the three-sided customer acquisition cost, two of which are not revenue yielding, don't have an LTV, don't have an ROI. So you got a three-sided CAC. You got to onboard the merchant, you got to onboard the business, and you got to onboard the delivery. And you're paying acquisition cost on all three, and two of them don't give you any returns. There's only return on the one. But when you unbundle, the CAC's not going away. And how do you look at the buyer side, the seller side, and the logistics side dealing with their CACs?
No, look at two. Not that I have a magic errand. One is, first of all, the CAC is high because you are trying to get exclusive customers.
Fair enough.
That's gone. You have a common market. Right. There's nothing called exclusive customers.
Right.
One of the biggest reason for CAC is was trying to get exclusive customers.
That's a good point. Yes.
Yes. Now there are a large number of people who have digital consumers.
Right.
For them, at marginal cost, they can offer more. Look at, let's say I'm just saying, Dainik Jagran, I just took the example. They already have some 200 million customers.
Yes.
They're saying that, I can offer something more. They are not acquiring new customers. They're saying to existing customers, I'm giving something more because somebody else is making it available. Look at gaming company. They said, I will not try to sell everything, but the guys who are sitting and gaming, I'll tell them pizza and popcorns. So there is and the guy who's selling pizza and popcorn, it's a free acquisition. Similarly, when you have larger number of people who want to deliver, who want something to be delivered, who want something to get, so the demand of logistics will naturally explode because it's going to come from a lot of small people who themselves cannot set up their logistics capability. Yeah. So they need this as a service. So it encourages people to build that. That's in fact, I would say that is one of the foundational thing. And I'm waiting for more people like you building up logistics as a full-fledged service so that all the small businesses now don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Third thing is a seller acquisition. Seller acquisition is what? Again, you can have standard solutions. What are we doing? They are all in the journey of digitization. They are all making their smart, beautiful catalogs because they know in the coming years, more and more people are digitally dependent. Even if it is not through direct e-commerce, even if you want to send something to WhatsApp, all this thing is going to be there.
Yeah.
So now we're saying that make it just a protocol compliant. It's not a I'm not talking anything high tech. I'm not talking about rocket science here. Saying that your processes make it ONDC compliant, just like you made UPI compliant.
Yes.
So it's just a marginal cost to make those things compliant. So that's why it is serving the interest of the individual enterprises in a fashion that is best suited for him. And since it is all connected by a common protocol, you can stitch. You might be a small business, your area of interest is only around this town, it's fine.
Yeah.
Or you might have a national ambition, then have a different you have the components, you'll say, let me fit the things to my purpose, to my ambition. So that becomes possible. Today's world, it is not possible. Because if you have only one option, you should have the end-to-end capability.
Right.
So whoever can fine-tune in each of the element and also get a huge customer base is the only one survives. It's not the case.
No, and I like that. While you were explaining this, it kind of like just, the bulb went on, so to say, that what you're trying to do is build a community of buyer apps. So, for example, let's just think wild. DLF with their, 2 million residences and the database of that could very well be a buyer app.
Yeah.
And then you build a community of communities. And that way you're actually targeting to your targeted community and not actually going ahead and trying to acquire, as you rightly said, the exclusive customer. And suddenly you've cascaded this. Brilliant. I like that. That's
the whole idea.
I get
when
it.
you take away from your mind
Yes.
the platform-centric approach,
Yes.
you will see possibilities exploding.
Yes.
And many of the things we can't even imagine how people figure out. As I told you yesterday when we did the hackathon.
Yeah, BCCI could be a buyer app, and just imagine every time they have a match, 100,000 people could be getting different things. So the possibilities are endless. I'm suddenly getting more excited, Mr. Koshi.
They don't have to buy. They don't have to let them buy everything.
Yes.
Related adjacencies.
Of course.
Even yesterday when we did that hackathon, the kind of diverse solutions people will came up completely blew the mind of the juries who were sitting there, who come from the top end tech companies, very advanced companies who are made set up either founders or CIOs.
Yeah. Look, I think the seller is relatively easier to acquire because every seller wants demand and every seller will find demand channels. So the sellers, my question was more from the buyer acquisition versus the seller acquisition because sellers will chase revenue. But I think the way you've explained it and the way I'm kind of like just calibrating this, like literally every community can be a buyer app.
Yep.
And it could be, this could be everywhere. Like a panchayat could be its own buyer app.
Yep.
That's just being a little crazy, but the possibilities are endless. Yep. Very exciting. Very, very, very exciting. And I think this is the last time I'm ever going to ask or have this thought about CAC and ONDC in my mind, because now I think it just gives a whole different perspective. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about ONDC. How do you envisage the role of ONDC at scale? Let's say 3 years from now, when you're doing 100 million transactions a day, you've got 100 million sellers on it, and you've got 500 million buyers on it, and everybody's happily and merrily on ONDC. What's the role of ONDC?
Like I said, it's like saying that when you have a full network of roadways and highways, do you still need people who manage the rules of how people should use the roadways? Yes. So when you have more complex kind of usage coming, you need more complex kind of,
regulations.
Regulations or rules or whatever, the policies, and make it as much as possible to be enforced not by human interface, but by technology.
Sure.
So we have to continue, and when you have 100 million of them, the kind of complexity that will evolve is going to be a lot high. And so we need to continuous, and I'm sure that you remember the early stages of HTML.
Yes, of course.
Okay, I remember I was making some HTML pages in 92 or something. It did not have tags to represent a table on the screen.
Right.
So we used to have, I forgot what is that, we used to throw up an ASCII table in the middle.
Right.
And say that don't try to format, just dump it.
Exactly.
But compared to that, where are we? So as we grow, we will need to continuously evolve as the business become more and more complex and more new technologies coming. For example, AI, all of them had come. How can we enable the whole network to benefit in a standardized fashion? So what are we trying? We are creating the roads, better condition of the roads. We are not trying to run the best service. That is for the business to do. We'll try to make it even better. And there, whatever that is common, abstractable thing is to be divided and made it here, so that people who can differentiate will make new differentiating products and make money out of it.
Sure.
So this is going to be a continuous journey. There is nothing called end game. It's a journey. It's like saying, have people stop making roads, have people stop repairing roads, have people start making the many things available on the road. Then you will have highways, then you will have, the bridges coming to avoid traffic blocks. So we are saying that our job is to be the enabler of the network. And
so is ONDC going to be NHAI? Or is ONDC going to be, is it the RBI or the NPL of UPI, or what is?
See, there is a certain way in which we become like something like an user enabled, like an SRO or Ampere or whatever it is, to make sure that we are all working on a common agenda with respect to, and as much as possible, this common agenda should be enabled and enforced using technology, not by human interaction, and provide common infrastructure. So it's just less of a regulator, because that will happen, the system will enable, more of an enabler. And even to enable, like for example, how many small businesses there? It's a long tail. Yeah. So we need to, just by the protocol gives everybody the equal opportunity, everybody do not have the equal capability.
Of course.
So we also have this huge developmental role to work with ourselves or work with the CSRs, government machinery, etc., to continuously empower and enable the segment of the underserved and unserved. And that is not going to stop anytime. Right. So one is innovation driven, other is enablement driven. So these are the two ways the organization has to continuously evolve. Right. The rest is for gods to tell. Yeah. I don't think I have the oracle's capability. Not the oracle, the company.
I got it.
Capability to visualize what's going to happen after 100 years.
So I'm going to take a kind of like a look back, and then we're going to again look forward. So, at the start you said 15 months back, you started with 500 orders. We're at 5 lakh orders today. If somebody would have asked you at that point in time, Mr. Koshi, what's your vision for 15 months? Have you realized your vision, or are you?
I would say that
have you exceeded them?
No, we had no idea where it's going to work. So we said in 12 months' time,
right,
we will demonstrate that it will work by having 52 lakh transactions.
Okay.
That's what I claim to all the people who are there in.
So 1 lakh transaction a month. Oh, sorry,
52 lakh
1 lakh transaction a week.
So we will demonstrate.
Right.
So instead of that, we did 5 crore transactions in the same period.
Wow.
52 lakh became 5 crore.
Congratulations.
So that gave a confidence that it can run. Right. Because people thought, let us see till how much they will go. Because if you look at any of the e-com companies, whether in any segment in India, or even some succeeded or the failed, how many thousands of crore blew up in the first couple of years? You can tell me, because you know the industry.
Plenty is the word.
How much do you think that we have learned? Nothing.
Yeah, no,
we are collecting.
That's true.
Yeah, so actually we have created a movement, and that movement has to build its strength day in and day out, because it is beneficial for a larger cross section. We believe that the movement will get it acceleration.
Of course,
and that's a faith.
Of course. So coming and now looking forward again. Today, we're still seeing the rapid hockey stick growth of ONDC.
Hockey stick hasn't started. It is still a mile.
It's still this
It's just part of it. I'm saying that after 1 year, when I've reached from today, we're doing something like 300,000 transactions.
Right.
When it become 1.5 million, I will say that that's when the hockey stick will really bend.
Got it.
Till then, it's going to be a painful journey.
Like that journey is always challenging. But how do you, again, going back to that 3-year vision of, full enablement and full access, how do you prevent larger monopolistic tendencies to not mushroom within the ONDC?
See, this is not socialism where everybody will have equal market share.
Fair enough.
There'll be some big and some small. But the interesting thing you look at, tell me anybody or any three of them who can take care of every 1.5 billion people with all the diversity to buy.
Right.
And 90 million to 100 million businesses, from farmer producer organizations to farmer to farm input to artisans to everybody's who can have a standard onboarding experience. It is not possible.
But sir, on the contrary, you have such a large market to create larger.
No, the thing is, it helps specialization. That's why it helps the local specialization. Innovations will try. The big behemoth will come and say, "I'll give you the engineering skill for the local guy." I'm just trying to say. Let's take the case. I'm just you from my accent and from my name, you would have realized I'm a Mallu. So let's say that I feel like my kids together. I said put together an application to help the Mallus in Delhi to be culturally aligned, get a buying application. He can still make a business out of it.
Sure.
Because he will tell, because all of us, all the Mallus will come, he will know their culture. Better than, let's say better than any large enterprise who can understand the cultural nuances. He can understand me.
Sure.
And then he'll say, hey, by the way, because I've trusted my data with him, by the way, Koshi, Onam comes, don't just wear your 3-piece suit. Buy a veshti. It is available in Chandni Chowk. I can get it for you. So those kind of, that's how if you look at, that's why look at the physical world. Is there one enterprise who's selling everything and buying everything across the country?
No.
There are few large enterprises who's got a national ambition and a national market. But the Palika Bazaar guy also survives. He has a business model that will help him survive. That's the beauty of this open network. It will help everybody to survive in their terms. But some will succeed, some will become national brands, some will become regional brands, some will become national offer for all kinds of buyers. Some will become specialized product. For example, somebody will say that, let's say that, I can even say that, mobility. I'm going to do everything related to mobility and tourism. But he will not be the best one to create the experience of food delivery maybe, or maybe grocery delivery. And for example, the media company says that these are my readership has these kind of products. So it makes it easy to make them complementary product. If I try to go into somebody else, they can do it better.
Sure.
So that's a beauty. So this will drive competition. In a sort of competitive market, how many business has only 2 or 3 enterprises? Mm-hmm. Here you're talking about every damn business of the country. It's not just about consumer goods. It's not about B2C. It's not just about B2B. It's all different. One person or even 5 people cannot straddle all the 6 together. Because the requirement because then somebody will come and I can do this component much more efficient. Because I got components there. I can get cloud at cheap rate from whether it is any of the cloud provider who's competing with each other. Even domestic cloud providers, you say CCI, the Open Cloud Initiative, creating all of them, I can say AI as a component from Google. But I'm going to create to this Mallus of Kerala. Those kind of stitching together become possibilities. Yeah. So if anybody tried to do everything by himself, he will become inefficient. Dinosaurs died. Cockroaches alive.
That is very true. But is there a conscious effort from a framework point of view to try and avoid the build-up of behemoths?
Yes, one thing is that anybody who's coming, like for example, there's a discipline in which they come in. One thing, they have to respect the spirit of openness
Right.
and right for differentiation, no right for discrimination. So that's a way in which we continuously look at the policies. Is what you're trying to do is against the openness, spirit of openness. Are you trying to create a closed group in an open network?
Yeah.
Then it will not allow. That's what you're signing up to me to be a part of it. If you don't agree to that, please don't be a part of this network. Because you're signed up. You have decided to take citizenship in this country.
Of course.
Or follow the laws of the country. If you don't like it, you're free to go to any other, any other domain. Similarly, it's not an easy thing. Are you trying to make conscious discrimination or are you trying to differentiate? It's not an easy thing to answer. But that's why we believe, as experts, industry users together, that's why we have industry councils, user council, all of them continuously helping us to answer this question. Because if you look at a resident welfare association, they all come together, contribute, because it's going to maximize interest of the total residents.
Yeah.
If somebody is trying to make his interest to be the supreme, the rest of the people will come and push it down.
Yeah, well, RWAs is a...
No, I just took it.
I know it's a different beast altogether because, RWA elections are no short of national level elections and the amount of politics that goes in it. So,
here it is competition. There it is election. Here it is competition based on innovation and specialization. And if you don't specialize and if you don't innovate, if you cannot do something better than the other guy will come and take your rug under your feet.
That's true.
That is even more killing.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't just buy it with money because there are so many of them coming with it.
But, when you start, you obviously have some initial incumbents. And, the first...
In incumbent in one segment.
Right.
Look at even the very early stages. There's no one single incumbent for everything.
But what if that one incumbent becomes the food, like
I said,
giant in ONDC?
It is not possible for him to be the giant in Jammu Kashmir and in Delhi and in a small town in Timbuktu.
Right.
He cannot. Then he will become inefficient. So that is why probably he may give I'm just saying, coming back to, you may create a logistics optimization solution, but if you try to go and recruit your team to all across the country, you will fail.
Of course.
Whereas if you can do a federated model where you can look at the local, team to plug in and take the benefit from your business, then that guy survives, you survive.
Exactly.
And if you try to do the other thing, somebody will still make this model.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean...
So you yourself have answered your question.
Correct. But, you see that I have that very strong belief that, the V 1.0 was marketplaces, V 2.0 talked about democratization at the industry level, which we've seen has created behemoths. And the V 3.0 is going to be democratization at the true business level, where give the business the choice or the freedom to choose. So I'm a big proponent of it, and and the reason I'm asking and double clicking on this is because the true growth, the true innovation, the true efficiencies lie when you unleash the lowest denominator.
Absolutely.
And that's what I truly believe in. And so in some ways, I am kind of like one of those people who's also got the paranoia of seeing us go back to big behemoths, because we should enable everyone, we should unleash everyone. So I'm very, very pleased to hear that. So just coming back to in terms of looking at evolving, how much of your time, just a lighter question, how much of your time is spent on the adoption and the growing of ONDC versus building the policy and the vision of ONDC? How do you divide your time?
No, we have a good team, each of them looking at each of the units.
Right.
I try to see I sort of work very closely with each of the team and see whether I can make a difference. So today, there is no fixed time.
Right.
Sometimes policy gets a priority, sometimes marketing gets a priority, sometimes interaction gets a priority. And because, as I told you, most of the young professionals or anybody professionals work on established companies where 60 to 70 to 80% of what they're doing is on a playbook. Here we have no playbook. So there is a certain level of very high level of uncertainty. So somebody has to give them the assurance. So I become the assurance provider, the confidence builder.
Right.
Help them to see a new possibility and say, try it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's where, so there is no fixed place where I spend time. So I spend time everywhere based on that day's need. I'm like a daily wages operator.
You're being very humble, Mr. Koshi. So what keeps you up at night with regards to ONDC? What's that one challenge, worry?
I said, no, I want to reach the threshold so that then I can see that it will turn the hockey stick. How fast I can reach the hockey stick turning point. Today I'm not in it. While I say that last year it was 100,000, probably for the whole month it was maybe a few 100,000. Now it is 8.5 million.
Right.
But that has not turned the hockey stick yet.
Yes. And what do you think is the biggest challenge to get there, in your view?
It's like, for instance, without blowing up money, with a collective cooperation of all the players to build together, collaborate to build, both on the buy side and the sell side. It's a chicken egg story. So it's like you in winter time, you all keep that koila and then put a fire and then keep blowing it.
Right.
At some point, you'll explode.
That's true.
Can you predict at what is the point?
No.
That's what. So till that
you can see that simmering.
So we can see it simmering, and we are waiting for that explosion.
Exactly. No. I'm excited for that too. Just in terms of, again, moving forward, what in the last 15 months has been the biggest learning that you've said, this is something that we need to address? This may have been done or should have been done differently.
Differently, I don't know. What I'm saying is
the biggest learning.
The thing is, like I said, we need to get. So see, we have this dual strategy that need to work. We need to show that the network is possible because it has never been done.
Right.
And that can be done only with the people who are established players. At the same time, this is meant to help a large cross-section of people who have never been there.
Of course.
So it means that it is not just about giving a technology solution. It's about addressing their business process challenges, addressing about packaging challenges, their logistics. And so a lot of components have to come together.
Right.
So unless it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So there is no you would have done puzzles. No? It's not that we will start from one corner and build the top.
Of course.
So you will see different pieces together and suddenly you will see a house shaping up, a flower garden shaping up. So that kind of very unstructured development is one of the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm making sure that how can I speed it up?
Right.
So is there a standard solution? No. For example, we had been looking at different enterprises who has digital consumers to pop in. Some has come, suddenly a new things open, and that bring all the related one.
Right.
So that's how we are sort of.
Right.
Like I said, from food to spirituality on the side, from fintech to media to gaming enterprises.
Right.
On the other side. And then enabling things like logistics, like you have built up, and you saw that somebody else like Ola coming and say that I'm also going to build up because I have. So Esli says the possibilities that is there.
Of course.
And the good thing is, here we are not competing, we are complementing.
That's true. You're
It's
increasing the size of the pie.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So we are increasing the size of the pie.
Right.
So I have a very standard question that I ask anybody. Everybody, whenever we talk about adoption by the current.
Right.
Here I have no option but to use rougher names. If you ask anybody who had been using a phone for more than 10 years, ask them what's service provider that you use. I did this testing at least 50 times. I can say that 80% of the probability they'll either say Vodafone or Airtel.
Fair enough.
But today, who's got the largest market share?
Jio.
So they expanded the market.
That's true.
So that's what we need to do. We have to collectively make this market. Similarly, for example, if you look at the credit cards, they used to do some 250, 300 million 6 years ago. Even now they do, their volume has grown. But what is the total number of digital transactions with the UPI coming in? 12 billion transactions.
Exactly.
Do you think that if nothing had happened, this 250 million would have become 12 billion?
No, or the number of people who've got bank accounts now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a clear destiny.
So that's what we are working towards.
Exactly. No, it's look, I'm very excited, and thank you so much, Mr. Koshi, for being here, sharing your candid views. If anything, I've been a big proponent of democratization. I've been a big proponent of unbundling, and I'm a big fan of what you're doing and what ONDC is doing. Thank you very much for being here, for sharing your insights, and good luck. And I hope the simmering explodes quickly and the hockey stick happens quickly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.